This video is going to be a quick review of what we learned in topic 1.4. So we're going to begin with evaluating absolute value expressions and then review solving absolute value expressions. So for number 1, we're evaluating. So we're going to plug in -4 for x and 2 for y. Now that we've plugged in our numbers for our variables, we can start to simplify. So in this absolute value, 2 times -4 is -8. In my next absolute value, 3 times 2 is 6. And -6 times -4 is positive or plus 24. Now I can also simplify 6 plus 24, and that gives me 30. So now that my absolute values are simplified, I can actually take my absolute value. The absolute value of -8 is 8, and the absolute value of 30 is 30. So my problem becomes 8 minus 30, which is equal to -22. This next section, we're going to practice solving absolute value equations. So remember, your first step is to isolate your absolute value. In other words, you want it to be by itself. On question 2, the absolute value is already isolated. So then we check what kind of number it's equal to. Here it's equal to a positive number. So that means we are going to have solutions to this problem. So I'm going to split it into two problems. 2n minus 13 equals 17, and 2n minus 13 equals -17. So remember, when you split it, one's positive, one's negative. And now we can solve for n. So here our 2n is stuck, so I'm going to add 13 to both sides. So I get 2n equals 30. And now if I divide by 2, I get n equals 15. I'm going to do the same steps on the next one. So I'm going to add 13 to both sides. -17 plus 13 is -4. And if I divide by 2, I get -2. So here we have our two solutions, and we can write them in a solution set. I do the lower one first, so -2, 15. If you look at example number 3, we want to check our absolute value. Right now it's not isolated because of the -5. Now, don't try to distribute. When you have absolute value, it's like a boundary. It's not parentheses. You do not distribute to it. So we're trying to move stuff away from it. So here, they're multiplying -5. The opposite would be to divide both sides by -5. A common mistake I see students make there is they'll want to do +5 because they see the negative, but here they're not subtracting 5, they're multiplying. So the opposite of multiplying would be to divide. So I'm left with absolute value of 6a plus 2 equals -3. Now that the absolute value is isolated, in other words, it's by itself on the left-hand side, you check what kind of number it equals. This one equals a negative. Remember, you cannot have absolute value equal to a negative. So if that happens, there's no solution to your problem. So this problem has no solution. And the way you write that is an empty set, which looks like an O with a little line through it. Our last problem here, we want to isolate our absolute value. Right now, we need to get rid of the 4 and the 20. So I'm going to start moving stuff away. Again, absolute value is not parentheses, so don't distribute. Don't try to multiply that 4, because then you'll get the wrong answer. So right now, my absolute value is stuck to the 4. So my first step would be to get rid of -20 by doing +20. My absolute value is still not isolated, so now I need to get rid of the 4. Right now they're multiplying 4. The opposite would be to divide 4. Now our absolute value is isolated, so now we can check what kind of number it's equal to. Here it's equal to a positive number, so we are going to have solutions. So now we're going to split our problem into 2. 7 plus y over 2 equals 3. And 7 plus y over 2 equals negative 3. So remember, when you split it into 2, one of them equals a positive and one of them equals a negative. And now we can continue solving. So my next step would be to get rid of my 7. So we have y over 2 equals negative 4. And to undo dividing 2, we would multiply by 2. So our answer for y is negative 8. For the other one, I'm going to do the same step. So minus 7. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. And now we can multiply both sides by 2. So our solution for y is a negative 20. And we want to write our final answer as a solution set. So since negative 20 is smaller, I'm going to put that first before the negative 8. So again, when you're solving absolute value, you want to isolate the absolute value first or get it alone. Once it's isolated, you check what kind of number it equals. If it equals a positive number, like in problem 2 and problem 4, then you split it into 2 problems and solve. If it equals a negative number, like in problem 3, then you stop and your answer has no solution. But don't check if it's equal to a positive or negative until you get the absolute value by itself.